mayor is absent, so unfortunately you folks are stuck with me. I will call this meeting to the Board of Aldermen in order. You stand and say the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heather, if you would call the roll.
Alderman Lee.
Here.
Alderman Magley.
Yep.
Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Laura. Here. Alderman Wilkins.
Present.
You have a quorum. Item number 3, the consent agenda is in your packet. If anybody needs any additional time to look at that, or if we have any corrections.
There is it says plural, meetings.
It says meetings instead of meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission. We had a meeting on August 11th, but the minutes are not completed yet. So we took off the other date, but we didn't see S.
I make a motion that we accept the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda with those corrections. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item 4, accounts payable over the amount of $1,250.
Make a motion we accept the accounts payable in the amount of $416,615.09.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the accounts payable over $1,250. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That carries also. Item 5, comments from citizens. Seeing no citizens, I will close that. 6, presentation of audit.
Hi, I'm Heidi Chick. I'm the audit partner over the city's audit. You should have 3 things in front of you. 2 are blue spiral bounds. They look like that. The thicker one is the actual financial statements themselves. And the second one is a little bit thinner. It'll say communication to Board of Aldermen. The report I'm going to go through, though, is that stapled one right there. So what we did this year, instead of doing a PowerPoint, we just summarized all the reports in very briefly in that report. So that's where we're going to focus most of our attention if you want to go through that one. We did issue an unmodified or clean opinion on the city's financial statements. That's the best that you can do. That's obviously a really good thing. What that means is your financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with the city's accounting principles. Which bottom line means people can look at your financial statements and rely on both the disclosures and the numbers that are in there. So whether it's a citizen looking at them, someone you issue bonds to or whatever, they can rely on that information. We've got some summarized data in here so that you can compare this year to last year. If you actually look in the financial statements themselves, there's a section called Management's Discussion and Analysis that Matt wrote. It compares this year to last year, so there's a lot more detail in that section, but we put the highlights here just so you can kind of compare this year to last year. This year you actually adopted, if you remember, we're talking about a newer pension accounting standard. This is the year that you see it. And so that's causing some of the changes when you compare this year to last year. So if you look at your assets, they're a little bit higher, and that's because of adopting that standard. So we'll look at that page in a minute. If you look at deferred inflows of resources, that's a little bit different. The long-term liabilities really are up, though, because you did refinance and then issue some more debt to work on the community building. So there is actually more liabilities this year.
Plus the fire truck and the 2
Yeah.
years on the
Right.
truck.
If you want to look over in the actual financial statements, it's going to be the one, the title says, Report of City of Centralia, it's the thicker one, and it's spiral bound. And we're going to look at these in detail, but I did want to point out that accounting standard what it did. So if you flip over to page page 14. So this basically is all the city's assets and all the liabilities recorded. Everything's full accrual, so all your capital assets are recorded here. All your liabilities are recorded. But if you kind of look in the middle of the page, down at the bottom of the asset section, there's a line called net pension asset. Does everyone see that? Mm-hmm. And the total is a little over $1 million. And then there's some deferred outflows, which are kind of sort of like prepaid expenses. You're recognizing those as an expense in the future. And then down towards the bottom of the page, there's a deferred inflow. Those are all numbers that are as a result of adopting that standard. Basically, you have an asset recorded on your books because essentially you've funded more to the plan than what you've needed to in the future. The main thing to point out about that is you don't get that money back once it goes to loggers, it stays in loggers. But what that helps you do is in the future, it helps make sure that your contributions stay at a level amount, and it's kind of sort of like pre-funding your contributions in the future. So it's a pretty significant asset, and it shows up under that new accounting standard, but you can't get the money back. So I think that's kind of important to pull out.
But it does show that our pension plan in loggers is healthy.
Yes. We were actually surprised when loggers did all their, because there's so many entities in loggers, and we were really expecting liabilities because that's what everyone talks about. But I think loggers is pretty conservative in their assumptions, and everyone makes their required payments. So in all reality, it's pretty well funded, it's pretty healthy. So there's information in there, but that's why you have an asset, is because you make your payments and they do what they're supposed to do. So if you flip back to that summary report that we were just looking at, the stapled one, if you look at page 2 of that, you'll see your revenues and your expenses this year compared to last year. Bottom line, everything's pretty flat. There weren't any huge changes in revenue. There weren't any huge changes in expenses. So everything is relatively comparable. For the most part, the increase in that position or decrease pretty much break even across the city. You know, the governmental funds, the government activities, those are your tax-supported activities. They had a little increase, and your business type activities, which are your utilities, they had a little bit of a loss. But for the most part, you're break even.
And correct me if I'm wrong, at least some of that loss is due to depreciation over
Yes.
purchasing new equipment,
Yes.
as opposed to actually losing money in the revenues and the expenses in the current year.
Yes, that's correct. And there's actually, if you're interested, find the right page. If you flip back over to page 22 in the big spiral bound again, sorry to make you keep flipping pages. This is your cash flow statement, and this converts that accrual basis income into cash. And so in looking at this, what you want to look at is that top section that says cash flows from operating activities. So that's the normal everyday stuff that you do, and you can look across all those funds, and you're actually generating cash from your normal operating activities. So that's, it's one thing to look at your net income, but you also want to look at your cash flow because you want to make sure, particularly from your operating activities, that you're generating cash. And that report shows that you are, so that's a good thing. The only other thing, sorry to keep flipping back and forth, but if you go back to the staple report, back to that page 2, and if you look at the very bottom right-hand corner, the only other thing that's different this year is we went back and restated your beginning balance to take into account that pension standard. So we recorded the asset at the beginning of the year, and then what the balance was at the beginning of the year, and then we adjusted it to the ending balance. So that's the only other thing that's different this year. Going forward, you won't have that again. Footnotes are pretty consistent, other than the pension footnotes, a lot longer. you're gonna read it, you may wanna have some caffeine, but it actually does have a lot of good information in there. It talks about the assumptions Logger uses, talks about, you know, if the interest rate is 1% higher or 1% lower than what they expected. So that footnote's a lot longer. It has a lot of good information in it if you're interested in reading about loggers. Otherwise, like I tell you every year, the management discussion and analysis, which is what Matt writes, really is the plain English version of what went on comparing this year to last year. So you might want to look at that.
And the Government Accounting Standards Board, or GASB statements that they issued from their tower, their ivory tower, the 68 is the one that has to do with the pensions. That's the one that has, you've heard stories in Chicago and California and Illinois, all these pensions that are, Michigan, where these pensions are underfunded. That's why that statement was handed down. But as we've already said, it's not really, that's not the case with law.
No. And most of the plans in Missouri are not that way. The problem with those other plans, like if you look at the state of Illinois, they didn't make their payments, so they're in trouble. You look at Detroit, they didn't make their payments, so they're in trouble. You guys made your payments, so you're in pretty good shape. Other than that, that's really all we're going to touch base on the financial statements. I know you haven't had much of a chance to look at them, but if you do go back and have questions, let me know, and I can answer any questions. You know, obviously break-even year, but you still have a pretty healthy fund balance, so that's good. In my opinion, that's good. So I think on the financial statement side, things went well. The other two reports, I'm going to hit the highlights on, and they're still in that staple report. One is the auditor's communication letter. You get that every year on the audit process. A lot of it's boilerplate, so I'm not going to go through that. But I've hit the highlights here. No transactions that we consider unusual and significant. No change in accounting policies other than the adoption of that pension standard. So wherever you see 68, think pension. There are two new standards coming up. We put the numbers here, but really what they are is disclosures. One has to do with disclosing tax abatements, where you've given someone some breaks on their taxes, like their property taxes, to move to Centralia. So there's going to be some disclosures in the future about those tax breaks. And the other one has to do with fair value of investment. So both of those will be effective, but they're really disclosure items that won't change the way you recognize any numbers. We look at the estimates affecting the financial statements. We found them reasonable. I always use, the example, what cash you have in the bank, that's a solid number. But just like the pension asset, that's based on a bunch of assumptions. How much of your receivables you're going to collect, that's based on assumptions. So we look at those to make sure they're reasonable. Surprisingly enough, we look at the disclosures, we think they're pretty readable, for governmental accounting disclosures. We think they cover what they're supposed to. They're as concise as they can be, neutral. So I think they're in good shape. We do provide some assistance to the city, both in converting, you generally keep your general ledger on a cash basis, so we help you convert it to accrual basis for here. And then we also help you make adjustments to do the full set financial statements. So we do provide assistance in those two areas. Best thing to report, no disagreements with management. I think the audit continues to go pretty well. We talked through issues. We didn't make any significant changes to the financial statements, so overall, I think the audit went pretty well. Any questions on that report? The last one is the management letter. A lot of what we do is based on our understanding of how things work here. So we look at who does what, how your internal control system is designed, everything's flowing, things like that. So if we find things as part of that understanding, we report them to you in the management letter. And so we do have two things that we report. Two of them are ongoing. One has to do with the preparation of the financial statements. So basically, we prepare them from your records, they're your financial statements. When you look at all those footnotes and all those schedules, you kind of got to know what you're doing. And so we prepare them because that is what we do. Matt and Heather reviewed and approved them, but could the city do the whole set? Probably not. So it's not related to how they recognize stuff. It's not related to the day-to-day accounting. It has to do strictly with financial statement preparation and primarily the footnotes.
And that's the, in GASB's perfect world, we'd be doing is that related to, we'd be doing the final analysis letter as opposed to having you guys do that, or I'm not saying it right.
Well, in an ideal world, you would hand us this when we walked in the door.
Yeah.
That's the ideal world.
Right. We don't
But
have that
small
kind of
entities, that's just not practical.
Fulton doesn't do that, I don't know, maybe Columbia does that.
Columbia probably does,
Yeah.
but they have a big staff, you know, they've got the resources to do that, so you gotta look at the cost and the benefit. And, we're fine with doing it, we just tell you that we do it, so, everyone knows. The other one has to do with, network access. You know, as a small entity, it's sometimes hard to set up ideal controls, but it's just to remind you that there's, you know, some weaknesses in internal access. Some other recommendations that we came up with, one is a recurring comment. It's something the city's trying to address, but it's not fixed. It has to do with the way the equity accounts close, and it just makes life very difficult for everybody. And a new one we have this year is there's some interfund balances where one fund owes another fund money. We're just suggesting just to clear them up next year, either move money between funds or just say we're gonna forgive it and do it through transfer. So some of those have been there for a while. They're not big. It's not significant amount, but you might as well just clean them up and get rid of them. So really nothing, no material weaknesses. That's the most serious thing that we can report to. So we're not reporting any material weaknesses. A significant deficiency just means something we think you ought to know about. That was the financial statement prep and the network access. And the other two were just strictly recommendations to think about.
We are still working on the chart of accounts conversion so that it'll make it easier to keep track of the monthly balances and the various utilities and the end of the year accruals. And then one thing, we will need to be careful about the general fund balance. And when we saw a decrease this year, part of that decrease though was cleaning out an old
The personnel fund.
the personnel fund,
Yeah.
which was something set up many years ago, and it helps balance in between funds with the, I guess, payroll and benefits, basically. And
It was difficult to use. It was just really complicated. It was hard for people to understand. So basically, the city got rid of it this year, which I think ultimately is a good thing. But
yes.
there wasn't enough money in the internal service fund to totally close it out, so the general fund had to put a little money in it.
Yeah, so that's, I
I
just
think
want to
it
make you
was-
aware of that. If you read that on page 8, that's not all of that decrease, but that's
100
significant.
some thousand, right?
Yeah, it was over. It was,
Yeah.
because I looked at that statement, before we did that last piece, there was a decrease in the fund balance, but it was less than the increase the previous year. When you put that together, the total is a net decrease over the 2 years. But, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. We can't spend more money than we take in the general fund every year, but over the last 2 years, we're okay.
So if you flip in the spiral bound again, if you flip over to page 16, you can see the general fund. The general fund is your general operating. You can pay anything from it. It's not restricted to anything. So you ended the year with about just a little under 600,000. And if you flip over to page 18, you'll see that the net change this year was actually a decrease of about 255,000. 100 and some thousand of that was to, at some point you were going to have to put money in that internal service fund anyways to fund it. So we just bit the bullet this year, got it cleared out. And I think going forward that's going to make it a lot easier for Heather and Matt to do the monthly stuff and track and make sure that the expenses are appropriately allocated.
Right, right.
Any other questions about the audit? I know you haven't had a lot of time to look at the reports, like I said, and I'll be glad to answer any questions later, but any questions you can think of right now? Otherwise, we appreciate the opportunity to do the audit and appreciate the cooperation we get.
And the work that Heather and her staff and Atlantic Keepers do is phenomenal. This is the last year of our agreement with them. We've started to look at a possible way to, if we're going to go through the chart of accounts conversion, which I hope we're going to, which is not, it has nothing, it has to do with Summit. It would be very awkward to change firms in the middle of that. So we're looking at a possibility of extending it at least 1 year to avoid that.
So, it's whatever you guys want to do, but we've worked with Dave for a long time, so we can certainly want to work with you again.
Great. But, I mean, it's important to bid that out competitively and to review that every now and then. But this year, if we can get an extension, we'll bring it back later, but that would, this wouldn't be a great year to change. And it's just a 3-year contract we're talking, so it's not like we've had the same contract for,
It's generally good for
It's always good to get a clean bill of health, so to speak.
yes.
There is something to be said for being familiar with the city and how things work, and with your chart of account especially, it's very unique. All right, otherwise, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Item number 7, update on Jefferson Street sidewalk project.
Good evening. If you guys have any questions throughout my, spiel, you feel free to interrupt me and ask anytime. Update is they finished everything on the school side except for the handrail on the the ditch crossing. That was measured after it was completed and is now in production, and as soon as it gets in, the contractor told me they'll be here to put that in to get the whole school side finished. They got pulled off on a different job in Prairie Home, and they told me in 5 days they should be back. So beginning of next week, depending on weather, they should return for the project. What I have here is a pay application for everything that's been completed so far on the project. We sent a MoDOT packet that breaks out the percentages of how much you guys owe and how much MoDOT will fund and all that. The total for the current payment due is $98,780.14. $788 of that is completed project funds. $15,992.14 is the stored materials that the contractor's already paid for, that he's looking for compensation to have it on the site and ready to go. Those two items together are what makes this pay out.
He's looking for compensation for having bought it, not for having it stored on the site.
Perhaps, yeah, it'll come out in overall total.
Yeah.
There won't be any extra cost
Right,
at all.
right.
MoDOT, if an invoice from a company is over $10,000, MoDOT approves it to go ahead and be paid in advance, so the contractor isn't out that money while he's working on the job. And those two items make up the $98,780.14. I needed the mayor's signature. With him not here, I'll need a board approval for the mayor to sign it when he gets back. It'll be something that needs to be voted on and approved.
Is it, does MoDOT care if it's a motion, or do they think about having a roll call?
I don't think MoDOT generally cares. It's just all these pay applications have to be approved by the board.
Okay. Which we would have, if we'd had it all into so we can approve that. If we'd had it as an invoice, it would have been approved in the 12/15 packet.
Anyone want to make that motion?
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to approve for the mayor to sign the approval to pay.
Application note.
All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Let's leave this with Matt. Whenever the mayor makes it back, I'll come and pick him up for you guys.
Is that was the last thing you had?
Yeah, that's it. Any questions?
Concern from?
Seen people using it already, the sidewalk.
So when's the handrail gonna be done?
I don't have the exact date on it. They should be done soon. They don't take too long to be fabricated up.
Should we put a temporary handrail up on there before school starts? You think kids will be using it? Kid fall off that bridge?
Yeah, I'm just thinking the same thing. I guess
School starts Thursday.
I don't know if it'll be done by Thursday.
Give me a call in the morning, we'll come up with something. We can put something together real quick. I don't know how, fixing it so the concrete's gonna be a challenge, but,
Well, I don't know, you just drive some stakes off in the grass and make a temporary handrail. Just something that they can't fall off the bridge.
right.
Warning, something kind of warning.
Yeah, just something, because I'm sure the kids will be using it.
See, right now it's all blocked off. It says sidewalk closed, but I'm sure people will go around that still.
Yeah. We'll come up with this. Give me a call in the morning, we'll come up with this solution. I'll talk to Phil and we'll come up with something.
Will do.
That's a good point, thanks, Dan.
Thank you. Jackson and Juna, a bunch of nuns there, is that still correct?
That is correct.
Item 9, old business.
Like a convent.
Just writes itself.
And new business, Mayor, I do have something that I'd like to appoint an ad hoc committee to review proposals for the solid waste services RFP. So far on here with openings, myself, the mayor, J.C. Miller, who is with the City of Fulton Solid Waste Management, and Mark Mustang. Would anybody else like to be on this committee?
When the meeting's gonna be, Jim?
The bids are due in on August 31st, which is a Wednesday, and we would be trying to get, bring the proposals together and have a spreadsheet ready for you by that Monday, so sometime that first week of September.
I mean, what are you thinking time-wise?
Oh,
Committee meeting time-wise?
Or I think we would probably,
In the evening time or daytime or what?
that's up to us, how we want to do it. And if you want to be on it, we'll work with you.
Yeah, I'll be on.
All right. Anybody else? All right, so with your all approval, if I could appoint myself, Tim Grinke, John Rogers, Landon Magley, J.C. Miller, and Mark Mustang to this ad hoc committee, that's what I would like to do.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve those appointments. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
That's how it stands.
how many aldermen do you have on
There it is,
3?
3 aldermen.
there? And the mayor?
And is that a problem?
Well, that's a quorum. So, I mean, you would have
I see
to
that.
post all your meetings as official meeting. I don't, I mean, it's.
Let's
that's
just,
up to you.
that's fine. We'll do it that way.
Okay.
And,
There's no harm in it.
Just
right.
around.
I think that's good, so, we'll do that, and I suspect it'll only take one meeting anyways. City administrator.
I just wanted to make sure that we approve a recess to this meeting so that we can call the public hearing for the annual property tax rate on August 29th. I've noticed some cities have got theirs in the newspaper. Ours is going in this week. I don't know how they did that because I just received ours in the mail I think Wednesday. But so we need to do that to set the property tax rate. We have until the 10th of September to actually deliver it to the Boone County Clerk's office. It is an odd number, it's an even numbered year, so if we take a voluntary reduction, it would stick. I'll have that rate ready and published for
So at the close of this meeting, would it be all right if you guys recess this? Is that what you want to do, recess it?
Yes.
Till the 29th?
It's all in the motion. And that's how we just move to recess it.
Right. So yeah, I just want to make sure.
Somebody, you want a motion to that? You want to do
Motion's at
At the end, when we decide whether you adjourn or recess.
update on solid waste management services?
We had 3 companies, of course, you were there, Jim, so we had 3 companies show up for the mandatory pre-bid conference, AAA Services. Their business office is officially located in Fulton. Danes Waste Services out of Mexico. And
T-Mac.
thanks, T-Mac Boone County company there. Those three companies, T-Max operation is actually located right next to the landfill in Columbia. They will prepare, I assume, all three of them will prepare proposals, and that's what you guys are looking at. We had some good discussions, some good questions. I think it was useful. One of the things we'll have to, unless everything works perfectly, and even then, right now we have one full-time staff and a part-time staff in the solid waste department. The full-time staff, as we know, is going to retire in October. We will probably need to advertise and hire somebody. Hopefully we can get them. All three firms were made aware of the possibility that if we have somebody in September to be that company, that we will work together to hire this person with the idea that they will transition to, transition to the company that wins the bid or wins the business. If we keep the business, then they would stay on as a city employee. But by the time we would be doing the hiring, we would know who that is. We hope to have the answer to the board by the September 19th meeting. You have my monthly report, and just if there are any questions about chapter 3, I had one other thing I wanted to mention for you guys to consider. Right now Jim has expressed an interest, Tim has signed up for, and I've signed up to go to MML. The penalty for not having already let Heather know if you want to go to MML is actually $25, not a big deal. So that meeting starts on Sunday, September 11, and runs through the morning of Wednesday, September 14. If you want to, we could do both the general government public safety meeting and the public works and public utilities meeting on Tuesday, September 6th, the day after Labor Day. If that's, the biggest change in schedule would be to the police chief, I guess. Everybody else would be here anyway. It's just a
I
possibility.
won't be here
Oh.
following, because I'll be in Costa Rica, so.
What?
Yeah.
When you're in Costa Rica? At the first week?
On the 9th through the 18th.
Okay, so you would miss that September 12th meeting.
Correct, so if we could move it.
So you're pro.
I'm pro, yeah.
Okay. And that's up to, I can't, you guys make that decision, you make that motion. And that's all I got.
Cut into your schedule?
He's gonna want something.
So September 6th, Tuesday, copy that.
Everybody else okay with that?
What day? September 6th.
Tuesday.
We would have met on the Tuesday anyway because Monday's the Labor Day.
We're gonna double up on it like we did this month. Okay?
And I really try not to sneak a third one in there. I know what you're thinking, Landon.
Yeah, there's a lot more Mondays after that, then we'll have more meetings.
As much as I like you guys.
Do you need a motion, or is that okay with just?
I think you probably should make a motion since it's a committee meeting. It's not, it's not set by ordinance, so you're fine to move it, I think, but it'd probably be better to have a motion at the.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and second to,
You move the general government and public safety meeting up to Tuesday, September 6th.
sounds good. Wish I said it. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
You can read your mind anyway.
Good Lord.
And that's it for me.
All attorney. Merritt?
Yes, I do have a statement to make. After reflection and review, I would like to tender my resignation for health reasons, effective September 1st. That's all I have.
We're sorry to hear that. And
It's not my turn to talk, but I'd just like to say that I think it would be in order for us to do something to honor the many years of service Mr. Beck has given the city of Centralia. Obviously, we can't, no one's prepared tonight, but over 30 years of service to the city as attorney, at some point, in a previous time, he was also the prosecutor. The city has well run legally. We have, it's just a well-drafted code book. Mr. Beck has more to do with that than any one individual. Lynn Barron's maybe second, but I personally want to thank you for your service, Mayor. You've been very helpful, and I've learned a lot from you, and just want to thank you for your service.
I certainly agree that something addition should certainly be in order.
Mr. Mayor, for Tim, he would still be mandated by statute, whether or not he'll be city attorney on the 29th still.
Yeah.
We could do a little something before or after or during the meeting. If his health allows him to come on that Monday evening.
You fit that in your schedule, Mayor?
That's the plan.
Sounds good.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you very much.
It'd be just enough to embarrass you.
Don't feel like you gotta get a ham or anything, Mayor, to bring up for that. One would be enough.
City clerk? Nothing? As may arise.
Like Landon said, school starts Thursday. Careful.
I make a motion, we recess the regular meeting of the Board of Aldermen to August the 29th.
Second.
Motion and a second to recess this meeting to August 29th. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? We're recessed.